2. Participants on the call, including you. You are joining your conference as a participant. For a menu of available commands, press *#.
Our technical and executive director. We would like to give you a brief overview of what's been happening for 2016-17 and what we're setting our sights for in toward 2020. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Jeremy at this point.
Okay, so real quick, just like Rex said, some of the things that we're going to just cover, just kind of recap some of the changes for 2016-17. The calendar of events for the upcoming competitive seasons, and the major goals and objectives for 2017 for the state association. And then also, like Rex said, we just kind of open it up and see what we're looking for, what we're aiming for towards 2020. So just a reminder, a bunch of the changes for this year. We have 3 primary ones that came down to us from U.S. Soccer. They were called mandates. The primary one was the concussion and heading protocols. That was implemented last spring at the state level, but obviously any kids that are 10 years old are not allowed to head the ball. If you're in a U11 or under division, not allowed to head the ball. 12 and under, it's up to the league, and then above 13 and under, then they're allowed to head the ball. If a player shows any signs or symptoms for concussions, then they need to come out of the game. They're not allowed to come back in until a designated health professional allows them or gives them the clearance to come back in. You're aware probably of the birth year registrations, doing it by birth year rather than by classes, so we won't really touch on that. And then a more expanded presentation on the player development initiatives is already on the state website, covering the numbering changes, some of the rules. We are using offside and the build outline for the 10 and under, 9 and under, and we are going by the new numbering systems for numbers on the field and roster sizes. But you can take a close look at that stuff if you go to the website. Another one of the changes this year was switching over to the Affinity platform from League One for South Dakota State Soccer Association. Basically, the main thing just need to hit on is for presidents and registrars, if your players, coaches, volunteers are not in the state database, they are not covered by insurance for the state. So please make sure the deadline was September 19th for that. For fall, so please make sure if you are having any issues with that, please give us a call or call tech support for Affinity. We'll get that taken care of. So the calendar events for 2016-17, obviously most of you are aware the South Dakota State Soccer Association Workshop in AGM is coming up November 12th and 13th in Watertown. Information about that was sent out to all the presidents and board members that we had contact information for and all the different associations. If you have questions about it, you can get a hold of me. But the workshop will be on the 12th. A lot of things covered on that will be the Affinity stuff. We'll have a workshop for registrars and presidents for the Affinity. Jason, our state admin, will be doing that workshop. Also, he'll be covering some of the things that are capable and we can add on to what we're doing. We've only scratched the surface with Affinity. Some other workshops that we're doing, we're going to be having a referee component. Also, we'll be doing some technical information based on the PDIs, how they've been impacting the game in our state. Also going to do some technical meetings based on the size of the association. So smaller associations will be meeting together, middle size, and then large associations will be meeting together. Try to address some of the needs and the issues of those different size associations where you're at, and then also to have you guys network and talk to each other about where those things. Also going to have a workshop on the league and kind of where the direction of the league's going and how the associations can be involved in that. We are doing a West River Coaching Education Weekend, March 10th to the 12th. At the Town Hall meeting in Sturgis, we decided that that would be an e-license and it'll be hosted in Sturgis. The first annual Futsal State Cup will be in Mitchell, January 20th to the 22nd. I'll touch on that a little bit more. Also, South Dakota won the bid to host the North Central Regional Futsal Tournament in Sioux Falls, April 14th to the 16th. We do realize that that's Easter. There will be no games played Sunday morning till about noon. And actually, there'll be a room at the facility that's dedicated to having a service there. But that is the only weekend that we were allowed to have it. So we are hosting, but we'll be recognizing that Sunday morning to allow people to practice their faith as they wish. State Cup will be May 5th to 7th. The dates have been proposed. That may change. But we'll be taking requests for proposals for the 2017 tournament and the 2018 tournament. So we'll be looking for those, and those will be decided at the annual general meeting in Watertown. Also, the Midco Cup and American Cup, the rec state tournament will be June 2nd to the 4th. And again, we'll be taking proposals for 2017 and 2018. We want to start planning 2 years out. Those sites will be selected at the AGM as well. And the Olympic Development Program will be kicking off again in February this year. So we'll be looking for nomination information beginning in October and November. So some of the goals and the objectives for South Dakota State Soccer in 2017. We want to restructure, we're proposing to restructure the board of directors. We have a proposal to increase some fees for the state and how we can expand recreational programming, expand competitive programming in the state.
Thank you, Jeremy. You know, this is a proposed board of directors and organizational chart for South Dakota Soccer that we've come up with. Our organization has been run by volunteer, except for our registrar and admin for the last, since forever. But at the last AGM, we decided to hire an executive director, and that kind of changes things. We need to be changing with it. How many of our organizations now find it hard to get volunteers to do everything? I know it's harder and harder all the way around. Our current board is made up of 23 members, 23 people from all over the state, and they're all volunteers, of course. There's no executive board to make needed or quick decisions. 7 vice presidents, some of them do a good job, some of them not so much. 6 districts, and now this is a good thing because we get representatives from all over the state. But do we really need 2 representatives from each one of those districts? When you add everything together, vice presidents, district commissioners, presidents, secretary, treasurer, et cetera, 23 board members. Not only is this hard to work with, but it's also expensive when we pay per diem, mileage, rooms, if needed for any of the meetings that we have. These are some of the reasons that we're looking to change the organizational chart of South Dakota State Soccer. Let's look at what that is. You see it on your screen right now. As you see, member associations and the kids they represent are the reason for South Dakota Soccer to exist. They're on the top of the pyramid, if you will. The board of directors is much smaller, 6 district commissioners, again, representation from all over the state, president, secretary, treasurer, elected officials, et cetera. 1 representative from the directors, I'll explain a little bit more later, and staff is non-voting, but they would be part of the board of directors. That's 10 total is all. Our executive board is there with the president, secretary, treasurer, a vice president of districts. So the commissioners themselves would choose 1 member to be the vice president of the South Dakota State Soccer Association and serve on the board of directors. There'd also be an operating director's representative, and the executive director would be non-voting. Slipping down a little bit, you got the executive director, which is a paid position. You'll notice that the grade positions are all paid positions. Reports directly to the president, manages staff and operations and directors, and is a member of all committees. Then our staff, which is our state administrator, paid position, director of coaching, which handles ODP and coaches, are paid positions also. Our operating directors and committees over on the bottom right-hand side become very important to this organization. They're appointed by the president with the advice and consent of the board of directors. These people are the people who can take charge of a position and get things done with the help of the executive director. They've got to be team players, take direction from the executive director, and not just be looking for a place on the board of directors. The director's responsibility, her areas of responsibility are, as you see across the bottom there, competitive, recreational, risk management, special projects, and outreach and marketing. Other optional committees can be directed by the president or the board of directors, and they can be established for doing special projects. Directors choose the members, the directors do choose a member to be part of the board of directors and executive board. This way we have representation from the operations part of the Soccer Association along with the districts. So what are we trying to do with this new organizational chart? We're trying to have a board of directors that is going to do what it's supposed to do, which is to give short and long-term direction to the organization, not decide on what kind of paper clips we're going to buy. The executive board make sure that the directions of the board of directors are implemented and makes decisions that will lead to goals and objectives being accomplished. The executive director is responsible to the president, executive board, and board of directors to implement their, the direction and the directives and oversee staff, committees, and other responsibilities. This allows for some new thinking and new projects, ensures committees' work is completed, and much, much more. That is why we're recommending a reorganization of SDSSA. Implementation depends on what is done at the Board of Directors and the AGM meetings in Watertown. And with that, I'll turn it back to Jeremy to finish the presentation.
All right. So that's going to be something that's going to be voted on by the presidents of all the different associations at the AGM. If you have questions, comments, feedback for us about that, you can contact the state office or contact Rex directly. But again, we're trying to get this out in all these town hall meetings so that we can address this before we put together the proposal for rewriting some of the bylaws regarding organization. Some other proposals that are probably pretty important for you guys coming up are the proposal for fee increases. Currently, our $11 player registration fee has not changed as far back as we can look in 2003 minutes for the AGM. Based on the rate of inflation, obviously, $11 in 2003 is equal to about $8.41 currently. So we're operating at about 25% less buying power than what we were in 2003. But we're trying to run the same programs, if not more, on the same money that we're bringing in. So you'll see to the right just a survey of the states that surround us, and also Kansas and U.S. Club. Kansas really resembles us as well, so we decided to look at them. But you can see all the states around us, we're below average by $10 on the recreational teams, and we're well below average, and we're the most affordable, actually, out of all the competitive programs. And then our tournaments and licensing are also way below average for the states that we took a look at. So the main things, and you can take a look at this here, just kind of spells out the proposal, but you can, we don't want to increase fees on the recreational players. We don't feel like we are doing enough right now for recreational players, and I'll get into the expansion of recreational programs here in a second. We want to improve the services for recreational players. The only thing for recreational teams that we would like to increase is seeing a coach's registration fee of $10, and this would pay for background checks. One thing that we have not been doing is running background checks on coaches that are directly interacting with our kids. And we've had 3 issues this year since I've been on staff full-time that have been sexual in nature, related to players and conduct either between players or between adults and players. We had a situation this year where one of our purely recreational associations, no travel outside of town, very small association. We had a coach. That you know had been coaching with the association for multiple years, and it was brought to our attention from parents who remembered news broadcasts and sent us a YouTube video of that news broadcast that there might be issues with this person who was assigned to their daughter's team. Our background checks currently, our disclosures currently are not background checks. They're simply disclosures. We depend on people being honest on the disclosures to tell us if there are things that should red flag them to have a background check run on them. We currently only do background checks on 10% of the coaches, volunteers, and referees that come through our system. And in all these situations, we would not have caught people if it hadn't been for someone remembering something or somebody catching something individually because they did not, the process that we have, we did not catch these people. And some of these people are not on the sex offenders, registered sex offenders list, so they would not be caught that way either, even though our associations are supposed to be running coaches through that and comparing names to that as well. So, but it did show up on a background check when we did decide to run his name through the background check, his arrest, and on our disclosures specifically says, have you ever been arrested or convicted? And so we found that this person had lied on their disclosure statement. So for recreational teams, for all teams, but the only increase in cost for recreational teams would be this cost to have referees go through a background check every 3 years. Currently, we pay $26 for a background check. We're pretty sure that we can get it for less than that, and basically it would be done just by filling out the disclosure statement. In the Affinity system, they would go automatically to a background check company, and that would be run every 3 years. And as soon as it expires, they would have to go back. They would not be allowed to be put on a roster until they went back in, filled out a new disclosure, had a new background check done on them, and be sent back to us. So the other areas where fees that we're looking at are increasing the fees for competitive players, because we would like to have coaching education be something that we're able to supplement. As I was looking back through the minutes of old boards back in the late 90s, we actually had e-licenses free to coaches in the state. We're not able to do that because of our budget restraints right now. So we would really like to start doing that, because I feel that it's very important for some of these, for programs to grow. We need to start educating coaches better. And obviously one of the hindrances that we've seen has been the cost of education. We're working with the referees right now to try and figure out if the $10 fee for referees for background checks is up to par for them, but we would like to run background checks on referees as well. Basically, coaches and referees are the ones that have direct contact with the players on a regular basis. Other areas that we would see fee increases: futsal player registration. This was already approved by the board of directors when we made the affiliation with U.S. Futsal. Players and coaches who are going to be competing in the futsal national championship series will have to be registered with U.S. Futsal. Just like U.S. Soccer, we have to pay them an affiliation fee. This is minus the cost of insurance, because we're already covering the insurance for players and coaches. So if you go to U.S. Futsal to register, you'll see that the fee is higher. But if you're already a member of South Dakota State Soccer, the fee is going to be less, because we don't have to duplicate the insurance. And then we're also looking at increasing some of our fees for our larger tournaments, where people may try and do some funny things. And we just need to have state staff help the associations with some of the rules and regulations for hosting a sanctioned event. And so we just need to help pay for staff to possibly come out to events and help people run these events, which we're not able to do right now. So expanding recreational programs, something else we want to do in 2017. Some of you are familiar with the Champions League. That will be restructured into something, we're at the name right now is the Dakota Development League. And as you know right now, Champions League is 3 weekends in the spring, and we match teams up according to ability, not age groups. We want to continue to do that for the first 2 weekends of the Dakota Development League. And then item 2 there, we want to have 4 regional recreation tournaments on that 3rd weekend. These regional tournaments would allow truly recreational teams from all over the state to not even have to get a hotel, drive in, play some games on Saturday, go home, come back, drive in, play some games on Sunday, play against teams in their region. It would be age pure, because we have to do it by age groups for an event like that. But it would be a way to have the Dakota Development League have good quality matched up games, as well as having a competitive environment. And hopefully a recreational tournament would be something that some of these teams may or may not have been able to participate in the past. And then the top 2 teams in each age group would advance to the Midco Cup or the State Recreation Tournament that summer. So we want to expand the programming or the opportunities for these recreational players. Right now, Champions League does include competitive teams. Those teams would be moving on to something called the Northern State Soccer League, which I'll explain in a second. But we're hoping that this regional recreational tournaments and the 2 matchup weekends would give teams good quality events and meaningful tournaments, and it would help us have a meaningful state tournament where teams that may or may not be very good match up with each other, and then the team ends up getting beat 15, 16, 0, and walks away from that event never wanting to play in another tournament. We want to make sure it's a meaningful experience for recreational teams. Also want to start having some recreational player satellite camps run by the state, and local associations can use them either just to develop players or to just mix up the programming that they're offering, or to use it as a local fundraiser. And we want to have the regional tournaments and the satellite camps be an opportunity to identify kids from smaller associations that may be a good fit for the Olympic Development Program. So expanding the competitive programming, as I mentioned before, we have entered a new agreement with North Dakota and Minnesota to form the Northern States Soccer League. It will be run by Region 2, which we're an affiliate of. And basically, this will be a league that our competitive teams and maybe our good traveling rec teams or our Tier 2 competitive teams can participate in. There'll be 2 divisions that'll be based on promotion and relegation. And these teams, if they finish in the top of their division, could advance to the Midwest Regional League, or they'd be a good candidate to advance to the Midwest Regional League after that. But the Northern States Soccer League would offer quality competition within a reasonable amount of driving, as opposed to the Midwest Regional League that forces our teams to drive to Illinois, Indiana, and Iowa regularly. Moving forward in 2018, State Cup champions will represent South Dakota at the Region 2 President's Cup, and specific teams that have met qualifying standards can advance to the Midwest Region Championships. We feel like President's Cup is a good, developmentally appropriate competition for our teams, and if the teams get out of their group, make it a championship for their age group, or they're able to advance to nationals for President's Cup, or they're able to finish in the top 2 flights of Midwest Regional League, you know, those teams would be great candidates to take a year and test themselves at the Midwest Region Championships. Obviously, the U.S. Futsal State Cup and the regional tournament are programs for competitive players. And also, we're working on revising the Dakota Olympic Development Program so we can involve more kids and have more meaningful developmental steps for those kids throughout the entire pathway. So just kind of looking further down the road, what's all this leading to? As Rex talked about, we want to have an efficient and professional staff and board of directors that's able to make some important decisions and be flexible and be able to adjust throughout the year. It also has good representation from all over the state and represents our membership properly. We want to have a staff, and ideally, by 2020, have a staff of 3 people that are full-time, and some of the director positions could be part-time paid positions, depending on how the programs do generating revenue. We want to establish a true player development pathway from the grassroots all the way to the senior level. This is something I'm very passionate about as a coach, but from the U6 recreational programs all over the state, all the way up to kids playing after college, we want to provide something for all those kids. We want to find a way to help the kids that just want to have fun and play soccer in a meaningful way, and we want to have an opportunity for the kids, and even in small associations, to get additional training or get additional opportunities if they're the type of player that is looking for that and it has the abilities to do that. But we needed a player development pathway to do that, and we need several things in place to do that, but hopefully we can have something set up by 2020. And we want to put an emphasis, obviously, if that's our goal, is developing these players, we need to put emphasis on educating coaches. So hopefully every traveling coach that's on our roster will have licensing. U.S. Soccer has decided to change the licensing again for grassroots levels, which means the D, E, and F license will be revamped. But we want to develop a culture where learning is important and it's affordable, and that's not a hindrance to our coaches in our state having this licensing. And obviously, we want to provide meaningful state competitions both for rec and competitive players, where the kids get something out of it and it's developmentally helping kids, you know, having fun, playing soccer at the right level, and not leaving events just, you know, being the only team that signed up for an age division or being a team that shouldn't have been in that division because of competitive level. So we want to provide meaningful competitions for all of our players that they get something out of it. So hopefully this was useful for you. Hopefully it was something that would help kind of give you an idea of what has been talked about at these town hall meetings. Obviously, we would like to, if you have any questions or if you have any comments, we would love to talk to you. You can call the state office. Our contact information is on the website. You can shoot me or Rex an email. We'd love to talk to you more about this stuff. But these are things that will be initiated at the annual general meeting, and so presidents or their representatives from all the associations in the state will be discussing these things and looking at how will this stuff help benefit the membership, if it does or if it doesn't. And then we need to move forward from there. So, again, if you have any questions, please contact us. The state office is 605-371-2255. or you can reach Rex at president@southdakota.soccer.com. You can reach me at techexec@southdakota.soccer.com. That's TECHEXEC @southdakota.soccer.com. South Dakota Soccer, all spelled out one word. Appreciate your time, and hopefully the fall season was a good one for you guys.
And we look forward to seeing all of you in Watertown at the annual general meeting in November. Take care.